Hello, everybody. Yeah, we always talk about how to start off these episodes. I'm not really sure how to do it sometimes. Hey,
Your best radio voice coming at you.
Live from the RentPrep offices in downtown West Seneca. But this episode, we do have a interesting topic here. This is actually huge for us, and I'll admit this is one of those things that, you know, may seem life-changing for us and just have a little bit of an impact for you. But we want to talk about a new product that is out there on the marketplace that specifically is out there for RentPrep.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Welcome to the RentPrep for Landlords podcast. And now your hosts, Stephen White and Eric Worrell.
Yeah, so it's not a new product in the sense that you probably haven't heard of it. You probably have. It's called SmartMove, and it's a TransUnion product. And what makes it sort of unique is that it's one of two products available on the market for landlords to obtain a full credit report with a full score shown, and it gives landlords a unique process to order that and to obtain that information. Whereas before, you had to go through this whole site inspection process. You had to jump through all these hoops and regulatory hoops that are put in the way to make sure that you're viewing this stuff in a secure location and everything. Now with products like SmartMove, it gives the landlords the ability to request a credit report, and it gives the tenants or the applicants the ability to authorize the request and authenticate their identity. And authenticating their identity is the key piece in there. Let me just put it into some perspective for you. The two products that are on the market, one is called SmartMove, the other one is called Connect by Experian. These two products are both owned by credit bureaus.
One of the three.
One of the three. They're no dummies. They know if they control those products, they control the entire market, as they should. They're the credit bureaus. So if you ever see another service, and we won't name names, but there are plenty out there.
Do it.
No. There are plenty out there that have these products and these capabilities, but at the end of the day, they are white labeling them. And if you don't know what that means, white labeling means they're using the guts of these products, right?
SmartMove or
Experian Connect, right? And just throwing their name over it and saying this is our product. But at the end of the day, it's the same guts, same pieces, right? It's like, remember the old school Fieros? And people used to put, remember the old Pontiac Fiero?
Oh.
A little two-seater Fiero.
Okay, a little bit. Well, you got me by 6 years. You're also a huge car guy where, I drive a Nissan.
Pontiac Fieros were perfect cars to customize because you could pull the body off of the chassis and do almost anything with these things. I'm pretty sure that there's some car expert that's going to call me out on this and tell me I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they were mid-engine cars, potentially. So they were kind of cool to customize and make like Lamborghini
Does that
conversion.
mean the engine's like in the car rest, like where you put your elbow rest?
Sort of, yeah. Kind of behind the front seats.
Okay.
So it made them cool to convert into like Lamborghini conversion kits and do all kinds of stuff. And people would drop huge engines in them and everything. But at the end of the day, they just became easy cars to kind of customize and shape because they had a good chassis, right? They had a good frame to throw it on.
Okay.
Same kind of concept with SmartMove. Any of these other websites that you see that's doing this, they are essentially throwing their body onto the SmartMove chassis. We wanted to take a different approach, and we said, we're going to call it what it is. It's SmartMove. And we're just going to have it on our site and have an integrated capability. So we've done exactly that.
So not to cut you off, Steve, but basically what it is, I mean, if you listen to the podcast regularly, maybe this is the first episode you come on. We are a tenant screening company. We provide tenant screening reports for people that you have a bunch of applicants come through and you're down to your last few and you want to make sure 100% that you feel good about this applicant, and you can see their background history, evictions, judgments, liens, credit, all of that stuff. So this is the SmartMove product is a new product that we've put on our website. And I thought it would be interesting to do a podcast because we have such an insight of the other side of SmartMove and then SmartMove, the product itself. You actually have a blog post that ranks really well on Google searches. It gets a lot of traffic for people looking at reviews of the SmartMove product. So now we have it on our site as a possible product. Why did you introduce it as a product on our site? What are the advantages of using SmartMove?
So anybody that's been a RentPrep customer for a very long time would see this as a complete step outside of what we would traditionally do or talk about, and there's a reason for that. For years, we did not offer full credit. I believe wholeheartedly that full credit for a lot of landlords does not give a full picture of what type of tenant this person's going to be. But I can't also have that sort of one-sided mindset and say, well, we're going to just serve the landlords that feel that way. I also know that there's a huge number of landlords out there that put a ton of emphasis on credit and want to have that full credit. And so at the end of the day, this is really for our landlord clients that have been speaking to us for a long time and saying, hey, I really need to have that full credit. And I don't want to use your affiliate site. I don't want to go off site. I want to have it built right into RentPrep. And so that's exactly what we did. We, something that I say a lot of in the RentPrep office, there's different strokes for different folks. If you talk to 100 landlords, 50 of them will tell you how important credit is, and the other 50 will tell you, throw the credit report out, it means nothing. So it literally depends on you as the landlord and what you value and what type of value you put on credit or those type of items. Our philosophy now is at least to have the ability to cater to every landlord, regardless of what they want.
Well, I feel like it's like we were a steakhouse before. And it's just like, well, not everyone eats steak. So now it's like, well, we're a steak and seafood restaurant,
Yeah, it's surf and turf.
Yeah. So with this product, some of the nice things about it is that it does make it so that as a landlord, you don't have to necessarily collect rental application fees if that's something that you don't like to do. You can just let the tenant know that, hey, there is going to be a process here and you're going to have to pay for it. So you can choose to have the tenant pay directly for their credit report. That's one thing I really like about it. The other aspect, what would you say are some of the other strengths of the service? And we'll get to the weaknesses too, because we want to, talk about it fairly and unbiasedly.
Yeah, sure. So, like I mentioned, there's only two ways to skin a cat in this industry when it comes to obtaining the credit reports for a landlord. A couple of years ago, and we started back in the heyday, 2007, before there was these huge regulatory changes that took place. Back in the old days, and a lot of landlords who have been around and have done tenant screening, throughout the 90s or the early 2000s especially, will tell you, man, it used to be easier. I wanted a credit report, I'd order it, I'd get it. Simple as that. And for us, it was a lot easier too. You want a credit report? Here you go. End of conversation. Here it is. Then they started making these changes, and it really came about because the credit industry painted this picture that landlords were going into their office den, right, in their home, where they do their work. Maybe they have their Quicken or QuickBooks set up on that computer, the family computer, whatever. They're running someone's credit report. They minimize the screen. They walk away. They go make dinner or whatever they've got to do, and their kid jumps on and starts playing World of Warcraft online. It's not a very secure place to be looking at very sensitive and secure information. And 9 out of 10 landlords are operating from their home. And it's home-based business, and it's not the best environment to look at this kind of high-level information. So they really had to regulate it and find ways to make it secure, to make sure that everybody involved knows exactly what is involved, and to make sure that, kind of like the Inspector Gadget approach, that it's going to have a ticking time bomb inside of it that says, in 30 days, this note's going to blow up. So you have to have the ability to pull that information and make it disappear.
I like the Inspector Gadget reference, by the way. I was a big fan of that show.
Yeah. The cartoon or the show?
The cartoon,
okay.
Excuse me.
Same. Yeah, so the idea is that you can't just hand somebody a credit report, shoot it to them in an email and say, here you go. Good luck. Now that thing exists. You have all kinds of sensitive information. It's probably not being stored correctly. It's probably not being viewed securely. And so these controls had to be put in place to help regulate that industry. That was done in 2009. Took them a couple of years, but the bureaus came out with these systems and ways to be able to do, pull credit information. And for landlords, it was the first time that they didn't have to go through a site inspection, to have somebody come out and look at their property. That's how it goes for property management companies and anyone else who wants to view credit reports. You have to have a third-party service come out and look at everything that's going on and say yes or no, and give you the approval. So what products like SmartMove can do is give you the ability to put the power of decision in the applicant's hands. The applicant gets the request and has to approve it. then they have to authenticate their identity. They have to prove that they are who they say they are, and they do it by answering what we call out-of-wallet questions. And everybody's gone through this, where you answer questions that only you can answer about things on your credit report.
I always get nervous when I answer those because I'm like, you're always answering questions from like 6 years ago, and you're like, oh, what model was that car?
Yeah.
You know, what zip code was I in, or where is that mortgage?
Yeah, you always hope for the easy ones, like you lived on which street? Main Street, East Avenue? And, you hope it's just a real easy, like, oh, yeah, that's obvious. They are specific to your credit reports. If you answer them correctly, you pass, and you get to pass through what's known in the tech industry as a token, which is an authentication or authorization token that allows that landlord now to view that person's credit for a certain amount of time.
Okay. So kind of recapping quickly on the strengths of the SmartMove product. It is a product that, at least for RentPrep, that we really appreciate, that you can pass the cost of the screening report directly to the tenant, but also the SmartMove product itself makes it, they figured out a way that they can put the control to the tenant so that the tenant is involved in the process, and that way that the tenant gets to decide who gets to see this credit report.
Correct.
And it kind of got past the regulations that were handed down in, what you said, 2008? 2009.
Yep.
So now we've talked about some of the positives of the SmartMove. It's a full credit report. You can pass that charge to the tenant. But as far as some of the negatives, what are some of the things that you've seen? Because, we've for years, like 9, 10 years, or over 10 years now, we've built custom background reports for tenant applicants. Mm-hmm. What would you say are the negatives of the SmartMove product?
So the biggest negative is that you have to have the applicant involved in the process beyond just filling out a rental application. They've got to get an email. So right away, that may eliminate some people who don't have emails. It's certainly feedback that we've gotten, even though it seems unfathomable in 2017 that people don't have emails. Some people don't. It's true. So that's one potential issue. If they don't get emails, if they're not at least somewhat technologically capable, this counts them out. They can't do it.
Well, I'd have to say too, just from my personal experience, I'm having an issue with my email right now, not getting certain emails. Yeah. I've checked the spam. I don't know what it is. I'm not getting these alerts that I'm supposed to be getting, and I can't figure it out. So if they have a highly sensitive email account and they're supposed to get that email, they may not get it.
Sure.
We're talking about a small portion, but these are issues that creep up occasionally.
Yeah, and the other issue is what we would call a conversion rate. How many requests are you going to send, and how many people are going to actually do what you want them to do, right? So for a lot of landlords, certainly real estate agents who work in the rental industry, certainly property management people, see this whole thing as a sales process. And the last thing you want to do is start throwing hurdles at people and saying, jump this, jump this, jump this. It's going to kill your conversion rate, right? It's going to kill your sales process. And there's some truth to that. So what we see, the completion rate based on our own numbers that we're seeing, is right around between 60 and 70% conversion rate, which means if you send, 10 applicants this link, 6 or 7 of them will actually do what you want them to do. The other 2 or 3 are going to say,
Well, how many of us have, a bill sitting in your inbox or something like that, and you're just like, I'll get to that later, and then you just forget about it or something, or so I think that is a potential issue. As far as the service itself, I know that there's some limitations when you have more of an instant credit report being generated. Some of them go down to the specific states. Do you want to talk about that, Steve?
Yeah. So some states have caught on. Massachusetts is one of them.
And what else? I think there's Wyoming, Delaware. Was it South Dakota?
Colorado.
Yep. Yeah, I think those are the 5.
Yep. So some states have learned that there is more opportunity to make money on their records, specifically their court records, rather than just giving it away for free. Eventually, I'm sure, as things go, every state will eventually adopt this, and we'll have to find new workarounds. But in the meantime, it's these 5 states that have been identified that basically say, we don't want to share information like all these other states. We're not going to share our court records. We're not going to share our criminal records. You have to go through a different path and pay us in order to obtain these things. And for a lot of landlords, sometimes that information might be free. In Massachusetts, you can log on and obtain that information for free. But for companies like background check agencies or credit reporting agencies or even the credit bureaus, that's an opportunity where the state can make money. So they're going to charge them to do that, which is what they're doing. So in some states, you're not going to get any information back when it comes to criminal records and certainly eviction records, because those states basically just don't play with these other services and products that are out there. So yeah, if you're in any of those states, you got to be aware of that. I wouldn't recommend SmartMove because of that.
You're going to be missing a lot of criminal data specifically.
So it's a tool. More than anything, I think the way that we're looking at it here at RentPrep, we're not building our business around SmartMove like a lot of screening companies do. Our business already existed and did well. We brought SmartMove on as a additional tool to be able to offer landlords that specifically want that. And it's really, at the end of the day, just another tool in your toolbox as a landlord, whether you choose to use it or not. And if you do use it, it's not going to solve all your problems, just like any screening service. It's not going to guarantee the quality of the applicants or anything. You still have to have written screening criteria. You still have to have a standard of knowing what you want and the type of people you want and knowing what you're going to avoid and who you're going to try to avoid. You still have to know all those things. But this tool just gives you an additional pathway to get to something where otherwise you wouldn't be able to, which is credit reports.
Yeah, and I would say one of the easiest ways that you can kind of compare and contrast that tool, the SmartMove product, compared to other screening service products, is you can go to our website, rentprep.com, and you'll see a packages and pricing tab on the top of the website. If you click that, you'll see a kind of like a table laid out, and it's going to have all the different types of searches and different things you might look for and different things that might appeal to a landlord spread out over 4 different products. So you can kind of get an idea of how SmartMove compares to our basic, pro, and platinum, and figure out what's the best fit for you. If you're a landlord who likes to have complete control in the process and you don't want the tenant involved, SmartMove maybe doesn't make sense. If you live in one of those 5 states and that criminal data is important to you, SmartMove might not make sense. But if you like the idea of just getting an email and then incorporating the tenant into the process and you want to see that full credit report and you want to see exactly what's going on with it, then yeah, it could make sense for you. So it's just something that we've added. We've kind of just bolstered the menu, so to speak, and just given our clients more options.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a good way to end this episode here. And Steve, I want to say thank you for just kind of giving your knowledge on that situation and basically the difference between SmartMove and other tenant screening services out there. And yeah, if you're a landlord and you have never used our service, come and check us out. We're at rentprep.com, and we have all sorts of different services for landlords so that you can find the best tenant for your rentals. Because really, half of the business of being a landlord and rental property investing is finding the right tenants, because a great tenant makes a great landlord.
I would say more than half. It's pretty significant.
Well, I can tell you, if you have that wrong tenant, which I've had that experience, that you're thinking about selling the farm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's the bad experience. You only know that when you go through it, but once you do, you're like, all right, I got to figure out a system, a process here. I got to do something that I haven't been doing in the past to get through this.
If I had no moral compass and I didn't fear any kind of regulation repercussion, the perfect business would be to reach out and offer to buy rental units from landlords that we just talked to that said they had the worst experience of their life. They're so likely to just dump their property and get rid of it because they've had it. They don't want to ever run into that again.
I'll sell it to you for $1.
Oh yeah, just get it away from me. I hate it. I don't want to do it. And I'm telling you, we'd make a killing on it if we just made offers and said, "Oh, you're dealing with this terrible tenant. Hey, take this." But
well, you know what? I have a friend who he buys scooters, and he finds them from people who have hit a deer with their car.
Oh, wow.
And what happened is there's something just switched in that person's head, and they're like, what if I was on my scooter? I would have died. So he finds these scooters, and he'll pick them up for like $100, and it's like a $700 scooter. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty smart. But it just kind of shows that your perspective shifts. Something bad happens, something tragic happens. And a lot of times for landlords, most of the ones that don't run background checks and they don't do the proper screening, it's because they haven't ran into the issue yet. Once you run into that issue and your perspective changes forever, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to spend that $30 or whatever it is to make sure that this is the right person in this property, because I'm not going through that again.
No question. Number 1 and 2 reasons why people come to any screening company, I would imagine, but ours specifically, we've done surveys. We have data that proves this. Number 1 and 2 reasons, I'm a brand new landlord and I just had a horrible tenant. That's it. No question about it. So you're absolutely right. If you've never ran into it before, you're probably not, it's not on your radar. You're not thinking a lot about it. The first time that you do, you're thinking a lot about it. You want to know what can I avoid next time?
Yeah, and if my stats are correct, I believe as of 2015 is the latest data that was from Redfin, and it's about every 12.8 seconds in America there's an eviction on average. So the stats are staggering. You know, if you just this episode alone is going close to 30 minutes, so you can imagine just how many evictions have happened if you're listening to this point across America. So yeah, just don't let it happen to you. We don't want to plug too hard on RentPrep here, and we'll get back on some episodes in the future here talking about some other subjects. But we felt like this is something that we need to talk about. So
yeah, for sure. And, open invitation always to any landlords. We have our FCRA certified screeners on staff. Call if you ever have any questions, whether it be about SmartMove or evictions or background checks in general, whatever. We have no hidden agenda. We're not going to try to sell you something you don't need. We're not going to try and convince you to use our product. We're just going to answer the questions. We do it on a daily basis here. So reach out to us, contact form, phone call, live chat, however you want to reach out. That's what we're here for. We're here to answer questions. We're here to help you make good decisions.
all right, until next week, guys, take care.